Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Giving honor and praise unto the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael, the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. I'm taking the opportune time now, while everyone else around is still resting, to do this presentation because I wanted to get this done by a certain time. So therefore, I can have more time to focus on other projects as well as spend time with the little one. All right, now, brothers and sisters, we call this one here Israelites. Learn some history, part 3. Last week, we went over this in part 2. We spoke about the Persian era and so forth. And the time before that, on the same channel, we went over the aspect of Israelites with Assyria and so forth. All right? So that's just something we want to point out for edification purposes in that particular regard. All right? What are we looking at here, brothers and sisters? It says Alexander and Ptolemy II. They were decades apart. Actually, you might say centuries apart. All right? But we want to sit there for edification purposes, brothers and sisters, to expound upon some history, and let's do this in less than an hour. All right, let's go. All right? Alexander defeated Darius III in the Issus battle. The Ptolemies and the Seleucids followed after Alexander. Now, brothers and sisters, you have it to where the actual battle after the Issus battle, some say is Issus battle, right, was actually the Battle of Gargamella, in which Darius was actually defeated again. From 320 to 198 BCE, the Ptolemies had control over where the Israelites were. Ptolemy the First took Israelites from Israel, that's to say Israel the land, to Egypt and Alexandria. Ptolemy II in the 3rd century BCE had what is used as the Septuagint to be written. Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, Book 12, Chapter 2, for a citation and a quote of such. So Alexander had generals that came up after him. And as we pointed out before, the two most important generals to the Israelites, all right, were the Ptolemies and the Seleucids. Next slide. Antiochus III and Onias IV. Antiochus III defeated Ptolemy IV and Ptolemy V. Antiochus III in history, you would find out, was also in association with Hannibal when you read secular history. Seleucus IV was defeated by Judah. This was during the rise of Rome. Out of Judea came Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, YHWH, an uncompromising God who commanded loyalty to his subjects. That was written by Will Durant in his book called Caesar and Christ. Antiochus IV disposed of Onias III, the priest, and encouraged nudity in Israel. Now, Antiochus IV is also, brothers and sisters, in relation to the Israelites who defeated him, and when we get the understanding of Hanukkah from. Onias IV, we want to point out, went to Egypt to rid his life of the problems in the land of Israel. So Onias IV, brothers and sisters, which was an Israelite, right? He's actually noted in some records as going to Egypt, all right, and actually setting up a temple there. Some records do speak of him as such with that, all right? During the era of Onias, we see that he was granted permission to build a temple, like Nehemiah was before him during the Persian era. Next slide. The matter of the wars. The Pydna battle in 168 BC is what made Rome begin to further defeat Greece, this being the Macedonian War. The best Zura battle is when the Maccabees defeated the Greeks, this being in 165-164 BCE. The Battle of Corinth is when Rome defeated and took over Greece. This is when we read of Simon, king of the Jews. Tacitus mentions this too. Is because he helped free Israelites that were still under in Seleucid prisons. So when you read, for instance, in the record of Tacitus, you read about, as he stated there, somebody named Simon took power and prestige among the Jews. This Simon, brothers and sisters, is the brother of Judas Maccabeus. All right. So the Maccabean history is mentioned inside of sources outside of just the Apocrypha, for those who are interested. Next slide. The Parthians, Edomites, and the Old Testament. John Hyrcanus is the son of Simon of the Maccabees. During his time, we see Antiochus VII. He defeated Judah, but was defeated or slain by the Parthians. The Parthians were workers for Persia. Though Persia was not an empire, they did have clout, quote, clout with some. John Hyrcanus is also responsible for teaching the Edomites the laws of the Israelites. So we see that the Greeks got a copy of the law when the Edomites were taught of the law. All right? So this is something we just want to point out there for edification purposes. Rudolph Windsor, in his book, Valley of the Dry Bones, points out that the Old Testament ending in the time of Persian rule has over 2,000 black places mentioned, compared to less than 10 European places mentioned. And I ask here, whose book is it? So if the book has predominantly black nations mentioned in it over 2,000 times, and the European places that are mentioned in it is less than 10 times, and you don't get to that aspect until the time in which they come up in power, we got to begin to sit, know, and ask, who does that book belong to? Next slide. John Hyrcanus and Julius Caesar. As pointed out in the presentation, the Romans and the Israelites, the link will be in the description. We see after John Hyrcanus, we have Aristobulus, then Alexander Jannaeus, then Alexandra. The sons of Alexandra, Aristobulus II and Hyrcanus, were at odds. Now, brothers and sisters, as we pointed out in that presentation, right, about the Romans and the Israelites, the Roman historian spoke about the conflict between Hyrcanus and Aristobulus II. This allowed the Romans to have more control due to the disunity of the Israelites. In 63 BCE, Pompey captured Jerusalem. Pompey was later killed in 48 BCE. Julius Caesar eventually comes to power, and he makes Antipater a procurator. Now, Antipater, brothers and sisters, is the father of the one that we understand in history as Herod. Next slide. Antipater, what is the matter? Antipater was the father of Herod, who married into the Levite line. Antigonus, the grandson of Alexandra, assisted by the Parthians, gained power in Jerusalem. Herod, aided by the Romans, took over Jerusalem, and he renamed Samaria Sebaste in honor of Augustus. Now, this Augustus is, brothers and sisters, Augustus Caesar, the first emperor of Rome. The name of the month was changed to August in honor of Augustus Caesar in 8 BCE. History of August. August was originally called Sextilis, the sixth month in a Roman calendar, and consisted of 31 days. History of July. July was originally called Quintilis, the fifth month of the year in a Roman calendar, and always consisted of 31 days. It was later changed to honor Julius Caesar during the Julian calendar reform in 44 BCE. So, brothers and sisters, the months that we call July and August, all right, was made in honor of Julius in Augustus Caesar? Next slide, please. Can it be answered? Now, in this presentation called Israelites Learn Some History Part 1, we spoke about brothers and sisters, and I say this in no disrespect, who present the 2019 dates as the time of deliverance, stating you had 1619, and then from that particular aspect, this is said to be 400 years later. So we are supposed to have our deliverance this year. There are some brothers and sisters teaching it. Can it be answered regarding the matter of the 1619 through 2019 matter in Genesis chapter 15? Genesis 15 says in verse 16 that the iniquity of the Amorite was not yet filled. All right, we want to sit there and take the time out now, all right, and highlight that part. And while we at it, brothers and sisters, let us underline particular aspect. That in 4 generations they will return here. The Amorites later on were noted for being destroyed in Amos. So now, if Genesis 15 is about us here in the United States, what are the 4 generations? Who are they in the 4 generations mentioned in verse 16? And who are the Amorites that Genesis 15:16 speaks of? That's something we want to point out for edification purposes and ask that question. Can it be answered? Because if you're going to cite a scripture that says something, brothers and sisters, and this one distinctly speaks of a particular people, in this case, the Amorites, we have to know and understand what that's talking about. Next slide. In the 4th generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorite has not yet reached its full measure. Wadod Ribi'i Yashubu Hena, Kilo Shalem Awon Ha Emori Ad Hena. All right. Now, when these things were done, the princes drew near unto me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the peoples of the land, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. You notice, brothers and sisters, that the Amorites are mentioned right there? What we just read here, that's being circled or squared or so, this comes, brothers and sisters, out of the book of Ezra, right? It says that the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the peoples of the land and do according to their abomination, such as the iniquity of the Amorites. Next slide, please. The book of Amos, chapter 2, says this. Yet these, it says what? We want to deal with delays, okay? Yet destroyed I the Amorite before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars, and he was strong as the oaks. Yet I destroyed his fruit from above and his roots from beneath. What you're looking at here, where the tree is, that's, brothers and sisters, is an oak tree. Wa emori wa anoki ishmati et asher kogo bah arazim gab ho mifnehem wa ashmid purio. Wa kason hu ka alonim. Wa sharashayu mitakat mima'al. Now, brothers and sisters, having to put the charger on the computer, so be it. Sorry about that. Just want to sit there and point that out for edification purposes. This here is an oak tree, brothers and sisters, right? Let's go on and see some other matters. Oak, Bashan, cedar, Lebanon. This is the oak tree that we see on the left-hand side. This is part of the cedars of Lebanon that we see here on the right-hand side. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? At least to me, right? The oaks of Bashan that you see on the left-hand side. Bashan, we want to point out, was in the land of Naphtali, pardon me, in the land of Manasseh. All right, Bashan, the oaks of Bashan as we see there. Oak, Bashan, cedar, Lebanon. What you're looking at right there, brothers and sisters, on the left-hand side, where the highlighting point is at, that right there is part of the land of Israel. The coldest that I've known and studied that the land of Israel gets is 50 degrees. And sometimes temperatures getting up to like 100 or so. Who would not want to be in a place like that? It's called the Holy Land for a reason. So we do have a land, brothers and sisters. Some Israelites are going vehemently hard to even encourage Israelites to go to the land. I spoke with the Israelites that come out of the Mona, and they said very respectfully, in so many words, "You wasting your time in America, brother. Badua atayo sheba edis gelutka." I'm like, oh wow, that's how you came at me? And what they asked me in Hebrew was, why do you dwell in the land of your captivity? And their next response was, Bola arzaka, come to your land. Anatnu mikwarim ata tashub la arzaka aki. And all I could do, knowing Hebrew, and they knew, I knew, and we speaking back and forth, was what they said was, we hope you return back to your land, my brother. Ki America ashpahi. Well, America's garbage. I was like, I hear you, I hear you. You know? And we should never be deterred from going to the land of Israel. You understand? Now, as I was stating, when I spoke with Israelites that are in the land of Israel, brothers and sisters, right? They was pointing out that not everything is the best, but brothers and sisters, many was saying it's better than someplace, say, in quote, America. Now, Black people in the United States, in the Western Hemisphere too, right? You know that there's more than one community of our people in the land of Israel. That it's not only the ones that's in the Mona. And this is not a shot or disrespect to them, because they'll tell you of the other communities as well. All right? I encourage people to go to the land of Israel, to see the land of Israel. And I personally have not seen it. These are things that these are pictures I've gotten from taking the Google images by typing in oak. And the reason why I wanted to show this is for two reasons. One, partly the beauty of the land, and two, what the cedars of Lebanon look like and what the oaks of Bashan look like, as we read of in the scriptures. So if it says that the Amorites that lived, brothers and sisters, on the east side of the Jordan, right? If it says there that they were destroyed by the time the book of Amos comes along the scene, yet unfortunately, centuries later, in the book of Ezra, There were Israelites still following the customs of the Amorites. In Genesis 15, speaks of the sin of the Amorites, or the iniquity, pardon me, of the Amorites not yet being filled. Brothers and sisters, next slide. The map and what? Now, when I just left it at that, so I'm out like, what is this? The Amorites there lived there. All right. You had Moab, you had Edom, you had Ammon, you had Aram. Aram is also known as Syria. All right. In this book, pardon me, in this right here was part of the gods of the people of the Amorites. So that's what part of their iniquity was. It said the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet filled in Genesis chapter 15. So if we're seeing Genesis 15 has been pointed out on several videos recently in this channel, if you're saying that Genesis 15 is about us over here in the Western Hemisphere, we have to ask, who are the Amorites? Okay, next slide. Will it be answered? So who? What will we say of the prophecies of Ezekiel 35 and 36 regarding Edom and the land? What will we say of the dry bones matter of Ezekiel 37? What will we say of the war to be in Ezekiel 38 and 39? There are many prophecies concerning Israel that has not come to pass yet for us. To say this year on the calendar is the time of deliverance. What are the steps we are to take in this deliverance? What is the role we have as men in this? Malachi says the hearts of the fathers will be turned to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers. The broken homes among us is appalling. The matter regarding 1619, we addressed before on yesterday, and who and where the captives brought to and bought by George Zarley came from. The question I have, brother, or in this case, brother or sister, is can we take the current calendar with the AD Anno Domini date when we see this? AD stands for Anno Domini, which is Latin for year of our Lord, which is used to number the years in the Julian and Gregorian calendars. AD denotes the calendar era after the birth of Jesus Christ. The traditionally accepted year of Christ's birth is labeled 1 AD or AD 1, and the year before is 1 BC. Neither you nor I do the quote Christ thing. So can we comfortably take the dating in years dedicated to JC and say that it is the time that Yah will do a matter? That is the question that I'll pose to the brothers and the sisters who happen to be, as they will be noted, as Old Testament based, concerning the teaching of saying that 2019 must be the year of deliverance and that the 400 years is up. Brothers and sisters, let me read something, if we will. Let's go to Jeremiah, and we're going to close out, right? Because in part one of this presentation, we went to Jeremiah 23. We're now, brothers and sisters, going to go to Jeremiah chapter 28 for edification purposes. Jeremiah 28, verse 1. And it came to pass in the same year, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 4th year, in the 5th month, that Hananiah, the son of Azur, the prophet, who was of Gibeon, spoke unto me in the house of Yah, in the presence of the priests and of all the people, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years will I bring back into this place all the vessels of the Lord's house, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took away from this place and carried them to Babylon. And I will bring back to this place Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, with all the captives of Judah that went to Babylon, saith the Lord. But I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon. Then the prophet Jeremiah said unto the prophet Hananiah in the presence of the priests, and in the presence of all the people that stood in the house of Yah. Even the prophet Jeremiah said, Amen. Yah do so. Yah perform thy words which thou hast prophesied, to bring back the vessels of the Most High's house, and all them that are carried away captive from Babylon unto this place. Nevertheless, hear thou now this word that I speak in thine ears, and in the ears of all the people. The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied against many countries, and against great kingdoms of war, and of evil, and of pestilence. The prophet that prophesieth out of peace, the prophet that prophesieth of peace, when the word of that prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Most High has truly sent him. We're going to continue in Jeremiah chapter 28. Then Hananiah took the bar from off the prophet Jeremiah's neck and broke it. And Hananiah spoke in the presence of all the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord, even so will I break the yoke of Babylon. Even so will I break the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, from off the neck of all the nations within 2 full years. And the prophet Jeremiah went his way. So we see here that Hananiah is giving a date to the people about when they will be seeing deliverance from the yoke of Babylon, right? Let's go on. Then the word of Yah came unto Jeremiah after that Hananiah the prophet had broken the bar from off the neck of the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Go into Hananiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord, thou hast broken the bars of wood, but thou shalt make in their stead bars of iron. But thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I have put a yoke of iron upon the neck of all these nations, that they may serve Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and they shall serve him, and I have given him the beasts of the field also. Then said the prophet Jeremiah unto Hananiah the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, Yah hath not sent thee, but thou makest the people to trust a lie. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will send thee away from off the face of the earth. This year thou shalt die, because thou hast spoken perversion against the Most High. So Hananiah the prophet died in the same year in the 7th month. Brothers and sisters, the point in me reading Jeremiah, the 28th chapter, about Hananiah giving the people a hope about a timeline in which their captivity and their oppression will end, caused his death. Because the Most High didn't send that prophet Hananiah with that word. Hananiah was a false prophet giving people a false hope. See, when you ask your brother for a debate concerning our deliverance and the time thereof, there was no debate between Jeremiah and Hananiah. There was Hananiah, the false prophet, and Jeremiah, who came with the word of the Most High. So if you're saying that in layman terms, that the Most High will do something at a particular time, be careful. Be very careful with that. Because what we know to do, brothers and sisters, is to return back to the Most High, as it says in Deuteronomy chapter 30. That's what we got to do. The things and the prophecies will work itself out, just as much as the prophecies works against us, such as the portion of Deuteronomy 28. You didn't have to, quote, make Deuteronomy 28 prophecy happen. The Most High caused it to happen due to the deeds of the people. So if the bad things that Yah spoke of happening, would not the good things that Yah spoke of also happen? Yes. But the dangerous situation is when you give the people a set date for such a thing. And that set date happens to be, according in this particular regard, the counting of the birth of the God of the Christians, not the God of Israel that Jeremiah spoke of. That's another God that you're talking about, Ak and Akot, brother and sister. So when you're saying that 2019 must be that date, and you're basing that based on a misunderstanding of Genesis 15, because we went over and spoke about the Amorites, we're going to have to answer who are the Amorites of today, brothers and sisters, that Genesis 15 talks about. See, this is not quote unquote up for debate. This is just presentation. You don't debate Yah. You present Yah to the people. And as it says in Joshua, this day you have chose to serve the Most High. You understand? So we want to, brothers and sisters, be very careful when we give a date about the Most High doing something in prophecy, because Hananiah did it in the time of Jeremiah, and it cost him his life, because that's not the word that the Most High stated. You made the people, even Jeremiah himself, say yes, and made the Most High do so. The people was believing and riding for you, as the saying goes. You got, not being sexist, sisters up there liking everything you say. That's right, brother. We're going to see this deliverance. When will we get up out of here? When can you count the 400 years and all these other kind of things? Meanwhile, this 400-year counting that you're talking about, brothers and sisters, and this is me in Old Testament base, which we call Tanakh base or original Testament base, talking and addressing other Israelites who are said to be understood as also Old Testament base. The Old Testament, as in Jeremiah, talks about those who give a date to people when the Most High has not sent that person to give a date according to his word. You cannot take, one more time in closing out, the Gregorian calendar of the 400 years. Forget the fact of those that were enslaved in this captivity prior to 1619. Some people saying they wanted, maybe they weren't even Israelites. You're going to try to fit each and every kind of way to try to fit your misunderstanding into the word of Yah based on the calendar of Jesus Christ. Shalom.